Like, when he writes an email and sends it with that notification, they believe first.
Well, not always, but so often.
I'm going to push
It's so funny, the first meeting I went to,
If she wants it.
I was the first vote.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, I just got here.
We are live on YouTube. And let me start recording.
Yeah, actually, they're all right.
Good evening, everyone. Let's call to order the Cities Association of Santa Clara County Board of Directors meeting for April 10th, 2025 at 7:01 p.m. First up is roll call. Ellie, can we have roll call?
Yeah.
Video off.
It's
Hang on.
right.
Oh, okay.
And Bybee,
This is Terry Hines. I'm the alternate for Campbell.
thank you and
Present.
welcome. Thank you. Terry Hines. Kitty Moore.
Here.
Greg Bozzo,
Here.
Lisa Fliger, or Pete Daly.
Larry Lang. Them.
Welcome, thank you. Kavita Tonka,
Substitute here, Stan Mock.
thank you. Welcome, Councilmember Mock. Matthew Hudes. Oh, there he is. Is Mayor Hudes. Mayor Hudes, can you let us know that you're present?
Yes, I'm present. Thank you.
Thank you. Carmen Montano,
Here.
David Alahi,
Here.
Mark Turner,
Here.
Ellen Kamei or Emily Ramos. Is Chris there? Okay. Ed Lowen,
Here.
Rosemary Kamei or Pamela Campos. Rosemary said she'll be late.
Okay.
Kelly Cox.
Here.
Tina Walia,
Here.
Larry Klein.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you very much. Next up is oral communications. This is a chance for the members of the public to speak on non-agendized items for things that are, of course, within the board's jurisdiction. Are there any members of the public in person to speak on non-agendized items? Anyone remote?
No one remote.
Okay. Next up is the president's update. So thank you all for being here. We're kind of rushing through this year. You know, we're already, oh, sorry. If I follow my script, I'll be good. Thank you. Next up is our consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda, approved minutes for the Board of Directors meeting of March 13th, 2025. Are there any changes? Any corrections? Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on consent? Anyone remote?
No one remote.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So move.
By Director Lang,
Second.
second by Allah.
Alahi.
Mhm.
Motion to approve the minutes from the March 13th, 2025 meeting was made by Lowen, seconded by Alahi. And I will take roll call vote. Larry Klein,
Yes.
Tina Walia,
Yes.
Kelly Cox,
Yes.
Ed Lowen,
Yes.
Mark Turner,
Yes.
David Alahi,
Yes.
Carmen Montano,
Yes.
Matthew Hudes,
Yes.
Stanley Mock,
Abstain.
okay. Larry Lang,
Yes.
Greg Bozzo,
Yes.
Katie Moore,
Aye.
Terry Hines.
Campbell will say aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. And now we will move to the president's update. So, you know, we're already in April. The year is just kind of rushing by as far as that's concerned. You know, and it's been, I'm sure it's been crazy for me. I'm assuming it's been a little crazy for you as we're trying to do budgets, as we're looking at state and federal funding and lots of question marks in both of those categories. You know, for me, talking to our state assembly and federal reps, they don't know where funding is going to be, you know, a few months from now. So I'm sure all of our cities are kind of dealing with that from the same standpoint. At least as far as this organization, you know, this is one of the things that we'll be talking about good governance later in the year. You know, and this to me, this is also kind of a therapy session, you know, before and after this meeting and in this meeting to kind of hear about what the concerns are and talking about what all that is. as far as the reconciliation process, we'll see where that goes as far as this week. And, hearing from the state level, and I met with my county supervisor, there's lots of question marks at the county and at the state level right now. So we'll see where all this works its way out. As far as this organization, the subcommittee for the website met last week, and we're starting to do, kind of basically evaluate what changes we want to the website. If you get a chance, please, give feedback to Shali, and she'll pass it to that subcommittee. And we're putting together a laundry list of things that will go out to one or two companies that we're looking at to do those website updates. And then lastly, looking forward to the June event. So please, everybody, to reserve June 12th as our member event, as we listed it earlier in this year. We've been talking about improving governance, and I think, all of our councils can figure out how to work better together, work better with staff, work better with the city managers. I was at an event last week and talking to Stanford's e-pluribus, a group that is looking at governance and better activating residents, dealing with kind of all of the cities. So trying to get them to also partner. But currently we have Kevin Duggan, who is city manager at several of our cities. But he gave a presentation to this organization several years ago, and it was actually very well received. And we're kind of supersizing that as a whole event evening. And so it will be at City Hall here. The reception will most likely be at second floor. So a summertime event on kind of a outside second floor deck. For those of you who haven't seen it, should be really nice. We've had lots of events out there, and then most likely in this room for dinner, and we'll say more of a show of panels and discussions, and trying to be both informative as well as interactive. So looking forward to that. And Shali will be sending out the save the date as far as that's concerned. That was all of the updates that I have. Any questions? Any members of the public wishing to speak on this or questions? Any remote public?
No.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll move on to our next item. Item number 3, Santa Clara County Safe Messaging and Reporting Guidelines for Suicide Workshop Discussion. We have a guest speaker tonight, Mego Leanne, Prevention Services Division Director for the Santa Clara County Behavioral Health Services. Mego is the Prevention Services Division Director for the Behavioral Health Services Department. She oversees suicide prevention and substance use prevention services. Prior to this role, since 2017, Mego managed the county's suicide prevention program. Mego, thank you for being here this evening.
Hi, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you for having me. And I'm sharing my slides, so hopefully you can see those as well. I was asked to come and do just a quick overview on the importance of safe reporting by the media in suicide prevention efforts, and give you an overview of what we're doing at the county level with regard to this topic. Someone from my team, I believe, is scheduled to deliver the full training on safe messaging to you all, but not until September. And so I'm just here today to give you a quick overview and preview of why this work is important, and hopefully you'll find it important enough to bring back to your staffs and start some conversation about this topic. So a quick overview of suicides in Santa Clara County. In our county, we do have among the lowest rates of suicide compared to the other 50 plus counties in the state. Our number of suicides by residents in our county kind of fluctuates between, you can see 138 in 2023, and then a high of 181. The number is generally about in between this range year to year. And then the rate, as you can see here in the lines, is around 8, 7 or 8 or 9 per 100,000. And this is medical examiner coroners data that we use to generate this chart. So in terms of safe reporting, suicide, as you probably are well aware, is a very complex issue. A lot of different factors play into any given suicide. However, there is a pretty strong evidence base about the influence that the media can have on suicide behavior. And this can be either a detrimental effect or a beneficial effect. And the evidence base is strong enough that responsible media reporting has ended up on suicide prevention plans and recommendations at various levels. The one on the left here is from the World Health Organization. They, here in green, responsible media reporting is one of their recommendations. And then on the right here is pulled from the US Health and Human Services National Suicide Prevention Strategy, which they put out in 2024. And so as a result, at the county level, we also have a suicide prevention strategic plan. And number 5 here is to work on improving media messaging and reduce stigma through media portrayals. So a little bit about why this really matters. There really are a lot of research studies worldwide at this point that find that there's certain types of media coverage, both the type of media coverage and the volume of media coverage can increase the likelihood of suicidal behavior. And this is especially the case for vulnerable individuals, vulnerable groups, including youth and people who are just generally at higher risk for suicidal ideation and behavior. So what's involved here is the risk of what we call contagion. And so that's suicidal behavior that kind of spreads quickly through a group after exposure to a lot of reports or portrayals of suicide. As I said, adolescents are at greater risk here, with about 13% of adolescent suicides happening in clusters, where you'll see a number of teen suicides happening in a short period of time in a given location. And again, it's not a US phenomenon. There's been studies on this demonstrating this in countries around the world. There are nationally recommended guidelines for how to safely report on suicides. The link at the bottom here, reportingонsuicide.org, gives the overview. It's really like a 1 or 2 pager, very quick to access and take a look at. In general, the risk increases when the story is really explicit about the suicide and includes a lot of graphic details. Things like the method, the location, maybe has a picture of it, uses very dramatic or graphic headlines or images. And when the death is really sensationalized or even glamorized in some case. We don't really have a lot of glamorization of suicide, luckily, anymore. This is more of a historical thing of decades before, but that was another kind of characteristic of media portrayals that would contribute to unsafe messaging. And then other contributing factors are the frequency of the reports and the placement of the stories. So back when people still read, paper newspapers, if it was above the fold, the story was above the fold, a huge headline, a big graphic image, for example, that's what they're talking about, like on the front page. So the placement of the stories would also play a role. And it's really not only youth. I said vulnerable groups that would be affected. And so on the left here, you can see a story, example of a story that came out after Robin Williams died by suicide. I guess it was 2014 now. There have been studies about the media coverage and subsequent suicidal behavior after Robin Williams' death, and a number of studies suggesting that there were an increase of excess suicide events among middle-aged males, especially, as well as an increase compared to what you would expect in the number of suicides by suffocation, by the same method that Robin Williams died by. And you can see an example of very unsafe messaging here from the CNN story, where the method was splashed across the headline, very large, and there was obviously a huge influx of media coverage after his death as well, and not all of it very safe. The safe messaging kind of concept also applies to entertainment and then social media, of course. It's been a number of years by now. I think it was 2017 maybe, but Netflix had a show called 13 Reasons Why. The first season included a very graphic depiction of a teen who was dying by suicide. And studies after that show came out kind of drew a correlation between that graphic portrayal of suicide and an increase in suicidal behavior among teens in the US after the show came out. So it's an important issue, and at the county, we've had a suicide prevention strategic plan since 2009. It's always involved safe messaging efforts, and this is there's really three areas where we do this work. First, we have a safe messaging training that we offer for the media, for journalism students to try to kind of catch them before they start working and publishing stories, as well as for potential spokespeople. So for anybody who might be interviewed after a suicide event by the media, it's also important for them to be able to follow the safe messaging guidelines. We have this training content also available in Spanish, and we're finalizing a translation in Chinese. The second area is regular media monitoring that we do of the local media. And then when there are high profile suicides that get covered by the local media, we do kind of more rapid monitoring and as well as immediate response to those editors and reporters, kind of reminding them or telling them about the safe messaging guidelines and encouraging them to follow the guidelines. And then finally, we've developed an evaluation tool to see if all of this work that we're doing is effective and how we can do it better. We have seen the last kind of study that we did to see how effective we've been did find that among the local media, there have been improvements in a few aspects of the safe messaging guidelines, especially the media is getting really good at including mental health resources at the end of their articles. So the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline number 988. And they're also getting good at not featuring some graphic content like publishing the contents of a suicide note. So that is really promising to see, though we still have a good amount of work to do in a number of other areas. And so I'm just going to finish off with this, how you all can help us out. So the first one is really just learning more about this. What exactly are the safe messaging guidelines? And taking this training, which, as I said, I think is scheduled for your September meeting, September Suicide Prevention Month. It would be wonderful if you could also share the safe messaging guidelines, reportingonsuicide.org, again, and encourage uptake of those guidelines, both by your staff. And if you have any local media partners, reporters or editors that you regularly communicate with, we can always use the support to get the word out further. And then lastly, help us follow the safe messaging guidelines. So if you or your communications staff or anyone tend to get interviewed following high profile events or in city communications, we did a training with the Milpitas Police Department, and they took it very seriously. And, you know, after a high profile event, they would kind of send us social media posts before they put them up to make sure that they were following the guidelines. So having those kinds of connections, relationships, and having the trainings done has been really beneficial for us with city staff. And that is it. I'll leave it there, and unless there are any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mago. And definitely, I'm sure we'll have a few questions. To start off, and thank you for kind of pre-planning for what we're doing in September. One of my questions was, you talked about the number of suicides in our county. What's the breakdown of, let's say, youth versus adults versus seniors? Do you have that generally, that figure?
We do have that data. We look at it. We have an annual data report that we publish. In general, the biggest number of suicides is always among the middle-aged adults, kind of like, 30s, 40s, 50s age ranges. But if you look at the rates, where you kind of like even out the populations, the rates are higher among our older adults and our seniors.
Okay. And that's what, definitely looking at seniors is one of our goals for this year, just in general, seniors, for priorities from this organization, but definitely looking at from a news standpoint, I would think that the majority of the focus is on high school students. That's what normally makes most of the papers, and basically often the Caltrain issue is I think the biggest thing that we've seen in multiple of our cities. Do you have suggestions as far as what cities should be doing, as far as that's concerned? Because it's the Caltrain, not the cities taking part in that. But you talked about DPS, you talked about communications managers. Are you currently doing outreach to those, or is that your ask for this group?
We work with a number of city level staff and communications, like PIOs and things, but it's not very consistent across all of the cities. So yes, I think that would be one of our asks, for you all to help us get the word out more to your staff. And always there's turnover as well with the communication staff. So that would be very helpful. And then you mentioned Caltrain. We are, the PIO from Caltrain is on our communications work group. And we have a number of efforts with them for signage and responses and safe messaging. They're very involved with the media responses.
Very good. Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Yeah, Terry Hines, Campbell City Council, with the reduction or impending reduction in funding to the county. Wondering, Ms. Leon, and thank you very much for an excellent presentation. What's your feeling as far as continued funding for this? First part of the question. Second part of the question, how could we continue to emphasize with our supervisors and representatives for continuing support of this program?
In terms of funding, luckily, the suicide prevention efforts are funded by the state, by the Behavioral Health Services Act, Prop 1. And so we are, I talk about funding very carefully these days. Things could change the next day, but as of right now, we're okay in terms of funding for this program. But thank you for asking. And then your second question, I think in terms of helping with the board supervisor, this work, the safe messaging work in particular doesn't really require a lot of funding. It's really about spreading the word and awareness and hoping that the media and spokespeople kind of change their practices. It's not a very tough sell, as you can see. People are very interested if they can make a difference in preventing suicides. They're willing to do it, especially if it's about how they word something or how they portray something in an article. And so it really is a matter of spreading the knowledge about this and encouraging people to take up the guidelines.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes. Director Alahi.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think it's really important. I understand your safe messaging to the media, but a lot of media nowadays is social media and streamlining And I know it'll be difficult for somebody to go talk about suicide prevention on social media, because anytime you talk about suicide, you have to be careful. It might be encouraging more suicide.
Mhm.
So how do you take that message or keep some kind of level of communication with those who are influencers in the social media? The police are checking with you, so that's great, but there are others out there that just, running free.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I would say safe messaging in social media is it's newer. There's a lot of more emerging research being done around it. And social media being its own kind of beast. I wouldn't say that the field really knows exactly how to tackle it right now. There's 3 different areas where they're trying to tackle safe messaging with social media. One is through the platform, so working directly with the social media, like the Metas, Instagram, all of those companies to improve their algorithms, be able to flag unsafe content and send resources. So that's being done at sort of the big tech level. The other one is at the policy level, so encouraging, Australia, for example, just banned social media for youth under the age of 16. But this is very recent, and so there's no research on how effective it's been. It's been very controversial from what I've heard. So a lot of policy discussions happening around social media access, especially with youth. And then the last area is education, just supporting parents and caregivers and the youth themselves on how to safely use social media. I think the really tricky thing is that social media isn't in and of itself a harmful, detrimental thing. There are a lot of benefits to youth using social media. Some of them feel more comfortable accessing mental health services and supports through social media. They get community through it. And so it's really, how do you kind of toe that line, keep out the unsafe, harmful content, but encourage the use for positive purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Walia.
Thank you so much for your presentation and actually calling out what you would want the cities to do. I deeply appreciate that. On that note, one request, either through Shally or now, if you could give your email address, so I'll be happy to connect our PIO or the communications office with you so that there is a proper follow-through.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Director Montano.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So, and thank you for mentioning our police department. They're very involved in, with the suicide prevention community. That high profile case in Milpitas where, recently about 3 months ago, that was it was very traumatic. But my question for you is, because we all, the whole community was really taken aback that it happened to a young family with the 2 kids. And so my question to you is, what you categorize the age group, but do you categorize the reasons why they commit suicide? And what are the reasons why, the main reasons, is it divorce? Is it, what?
Yeah.
Have you
It's all-
disaggregated the reason why?
Oh, you mean in the data, reasons for suicide?
Right.
We have made some attempts to use the coroner's data and look at different categories of reasons. So we've done that with a few years. It's really difficult with the data because the coroner gathers their data through interviews with next of kin. And so a lot of it is kind of speculative. And as I mentioned, every suicide is very complex. There's always multiple factors, many of which the next of kin might not even be aware of. Some of them aren't even aware that their loved ones were struggling with mental illness, for example, or getting treatment. So we have made attempts. And then there is data out there that kind of can generalize the different groups of factors and reasons why people tend to die by suicide or attempt suicide.
Yeah, so the one in Milpitas that happened, it was through a divorce. So I was just wondering if if that's usually a high reason why people would take their lives because of family breakup, divorce.
Yeah, it's very complex because I think people, whenever there is a death, especially a traumatic one that affects a huge community, people are always looking for the answer. Or I often get the question, what is the one thing we could put money into to really make a difference on this issue? But part of the reason why this work is so challenging is because it's never just one really glaring obvious thing. If we knew what that obvious thing was, then we probably would have solved this by now and I wouldn't have my job. And so it's oftentimes, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and then a history of this and that. And the factors all kind of come together into this culminating behavior or event. So yeah, and I wouldn't say that divorce is really, it comes to the top in the data as the main one. However, relationship problems in general tend to commonly be a factor in suicides.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have a personal story. My brother's son was 23 years old and he hung himself because of a relationship, boyfriend girlfriend thing. So yeah, it's a big it's a big problem. It's a big factor in why they take their lives. You're right. It's the relationships.
Yeah. Although on the flip side, so many people, every day go through breakups and do not attempt suicide, right? So it just really speaks to the fact of, a lot of different factors coming together and culminating.
Any other comments? Sure.
I guess so. Even before starting, I want to recognize we jumped into a really challenging topic without a lot of life space given. So
Yeah.
I do think that it's a triggering thing, and just want to recognize that this might be hard for some people to talk about. I want to know, through the report that I saw even online, the ask is pretty simple in terms of cities taking responsibility in their ways. I think that there's often opportunities for us to leverage when we talk about like communicable threats online. There's monitoring and reporting of things like that perhaps this could go into. But I'm wondering right now if there's a model of success for this right now that you've seen occurring in perhaps other locations where this turns into tangible data that says a reporting structure like this is actually working.
Yeah, I think there are a number of studies, maybe out of European countries, that show the effectiveness of safe messaging efforts. And we in our county are also trying, that was why we developed the evaluation tools to kind of be able to put some numbers around the evaluation and really show that what we're doing is working. It is hard to isolate the one effort though, because most, any suicide prevention effort is very multifaceted. And so you might combine safe messaging efforts along with restricting means, like putting guardrails up around train tracks or something like that. And so it's really the combination of all of those efforts that really give you the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak. But yes, there is evidence and studies out there showing the effectiveness of safe messaging efforts.
Any other comments? Any member of the public wishing to speak? Mr. Crowder?
Yeah, Steve Preminger from the county. I just wanted to give a shout out to Mago and her behavioral health staff. One of the areas that I think everybody's aware of is the high rate of suicide amongst veterans. And so your comment about county funding being cut is a good point. It's a concern, but certainly what's going on with the Veterans Administration at the federal level is a great concern to all of us. So that I think speaks to the need for local communities to continue all they can do.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to speak?
Hi, everyone. Patrick Aaron, I just drove back from Sacramento where today we passed a budget junior bill. We're going through our May revised process, but we just passed sort of a shell of a budget junior bill to move forward. We're continuing to ask folks to reach out to anyone on the Republican congressional side to advocate for the federal spending cuts, which we're really feeling mostly is going to impact what we're hearing is a lot of the county funding. And so the state takes the mandate of protecting taxpayer dollars very seriously through the appropriations process. So I'm collecting any and all thoughts, but I just wanted to be here to sort of listen to see what ideas and issues that you all are sort of taking up as a region, so we can continue to keep in touch as this budget moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online wishing to speak?
No one.
Okay. Mega, thank you for any final comments. Mega, thank
No,
you
but
for,
I think I saw someone with their hand up on the video.
sorry, Director Mock, thank you.
Just me.
Not
Well,
just-
I just wanted to mention that next month, the month of May, is the mental health awareness month. So I think that all of us as cities have some responsibility here. Maybe the city of Los Altos Hills has a proclamation. And I would suggest that some of the other cities do the same. And this is one of the most important topics in that area. But I think that it all comes together.
And I appreciate that. Last year that was one of our main priorities. And if you remember, that was the focus of our summer event. And, we still have those reminders that we did a lot of efforts last year and reminders in each of our cities about, seeking mental health, and it's okay not to be okay and all that. So thank you for that reminder. Any other comments? Meg, I just want to thank you for your time. We look forward to you or your staff coming back in September, and definitely we'll have Shali pass out the information to all the board members, as well as a reminder of the city managers.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to item 4. Professional services agreement for the executive director discussion and possible action. So this is, and you hopefully have looked at your packet. This is the annual approval of our agreement for our executive director. And ultimately, it's pretty much a continuation of last year's contract, the hourly wage, and not to exceed 130,000 a year. And so this is that's if you go through, it's basically the same contract we had that we reinforced with the JPA, but just trying to make sure that this organization has someone that's focused on the day-to-day operations, which is critical. As we saw in the past, it is important, and what we do here has a lot of value, and getting this group together, and Shali's been doing a fantastic job representing this organization at a county level and farther, which has actually been very useful for some of the efforts that we've done over the last few years. Are there any questions about the agreement? None? No comments? Okay. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No one.
Okay,
No one on.
thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Made by Turner, second by Apahi. Can you please conduct the voice vote?
Motion to approve the terms of the agreement for professional services with Executive Director Waishali Cirque to cover services provided from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, and to authorize the president to execute this agreement on behalf of the JPA was made by Turner, seconded by Elahi. Sunnyvale,
Yes?
Saratoga,
Happy to say yes.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
San Jose,
Aye.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
Mountain View,
Yes.
Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Monte Sereno,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Cupertino,
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do, Shelley.
Oh.
It's really important. And, as we see, it's getting things in order, as we'll talk about in the
Yes.
next item.
Yes.
And it's, you've done a fantastic job with the last few years as we've navigated into a JPA and getting insurance and all the other things that trying to, let's say, rewrite the organization for a lot of things. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Next is item 5, adoption of the 2025-2026 budget, discussion and possible action. Shelley?
So I just wanted to highlight a few things that are different from what I presented in March. I just want to also first say that I did not receive any comments on the budget from this board or from the city managers. So what's different from March, the executive director, you'll see that the amount is 130,000. That's the not to exceed amount. I usually come in around 122,000. But a previous legal counsel had built in a little bit of a buffer for unforeseen reasons why I may have to work extra hours. Just for this year, I kept the bookkeeper and the certified public accountant line items, just so you can compare it to last year. So those are both zeroing out. And bookkeeping and auditing services, you have in your packet a memo from City Manager Tim Kirby, saying that the cost of that is 10,000. So there's a significant savings there. And if you scoot down to the last thing in office, meeting space rental, again, you have a memo in your packet from Tim Kirby, discussing the cost breakdown. And so I calculated the cost for up to 6 meetings in the last 6 months of fiscal year 26. So that's where that is. And it looks like if we stick to this budget at a minimum, we should have roughly $49,000 left at the end of the year. I'm happy to take any questions.
And the dues did not change.
Oh, and thank you. And the dues did not change this year. They remained flat for 3 years in a row. And I'm actually very happy and very proud to be able to say that we can manage our finances with the money that we have.
And you talk about it in the packet, but can you talk about the space?
Oh, yes. So I also did include the staff report from the March because meeting, because it did have a lot of more detail in how I came up with my numbers and the rationale. But so January 2026, we will have a new board president. And it may be someone who does not have a room such as this to hold the board meetings. And we just kind of built in that meeting space rental as a buffer. So just in case. And the most likely room that we would rent that's centrally located and very large would be Sunnyvale's. So that's why I approached City Manager Kirby.
Are there any questions?
And we also have our treasurer here.
Yes. Oh,
Do you want to add anything?
actually, yes.
I wish I had,
Director Sisula.
excuse me, wish I had more to contribute, but Shali did such a wonderful job in explaining the changes, and you guys could see in your agenda packets what happened. But ultimately, long story short is, we got a good amount of savings by eliminating things that we considered basically waste. And yeah, so we're looking forward to putting some of that savings, that near 50,000, into the reserves.
Thank you. Vice President Walia?
Oh, thank you.
I remembered.
Question and comment. Comment is, thank you so much for maintaining some of the line items and to show the delta. It's much easier to follow. Deeply appreciate that. Very well done. Thank you to the treasurer and thank you to Shali. Just a minor clarification, not an issue. So for the summer and holiday party, almost highlighting this, that we are maintaining the dollar amount expenses as we had done last year.
Correct.
That was just.
Okay.
simple. Thank you.
And maybe since you just mentioned that, we're still going to try and pursue people who can actually help with the expenses of the party. I don't know, I don't really have anything to report on that, but as we mentioned last meeting, that's part to help with costs again.
Wonderful.
And, and there's always the issue with the June event is on, from a financial year, is on this year's budget. So it's always an odd sort of thing that the next president will be, the next president will have the December party. It's an odd thing as far as how the fiscal year stands, but so we're setting it up for you for next year for those two events. So it's this year's event, which we don't have a final numbers are on, and conceivably will hopefully be better than what we expected. One thing I did want to bring up was talking about the storage unit.
Oh,
We should talk a
yeah.
little bit more about that again.
Yeah.
You mentioned it last month, but now
Yeah.
you did the majority of that work.
So last month I mentioned that myself and our co-legal counsel, Janny and Andrew, were going to empty out the storage unit or go take a look. And I'm very happy to announce that we have emptied it out. We have closed it out. So that expense is no longer on our budget. It's not reflected here as zeroed out because it was not actually in last year's budget because we had intended to close it and we never did. So that was like a little bit of a budget adjustment. And then I had our legal counsel look through some of the items that were in there to determine if they were worth keeping or not. But a lot of it was really old well, I started in July 2022, so it was from before July 2022.
How long before?
A long time before.
Yeah.
Sugar,
Yeah.
coffee
It was some
cups.
coffee stuff.
Very old computers.
Inspired.
Yes, Director Moore.
Okay, thank you. I have a quick question. I appreciate all the documentation. On page 24, the city of Sunnyvale provides some auditing services. The city of Sunnyvale offers these services to nonprofit organizations. I had a question about that. So could any nonprofit have Sunnyvale help them?
No, we're a fiscal agent for the Santa Clara Valley Urban Runoff Pollution Prevention Program, which is another JPA that many of you are members of, that operates under the joint stormwater permit. And it's escaping me, but we also do one other regional association. So we've already got bookkeeping, auditing, accounting services for external clients stood up. But we don't offer it to the general public, no.
Thank you. Just wondering, and then on page 31, with regards to continuity, this is mentioning, this is your letter saying that you're providing these accounting services. What would happen if this body moves to another location because you already know how the books work and all? Is that something that would continue?
I'm anticipating that we would continue to be the fiscal agent for the city's association into the foreseeable future. The only thing I noted was we reserve the right to adjust our price depending on the complexity, but frankly, the books are pretty straightforward. They're not complicated.
And I just wanted to add that our contract with the city of Sunnyvale is completely independent of Sunnyvale serving on this board. So, yeah, so no matter where we go in the county, we would still.
We'll still provide the service.
Okay, thank you for that
And
clarification.
at one point,
Yeah.
San Jose was that fiscal agent. And at some transition point, I think it was mainly during COVID or before COVID, that was kind of removed. So that's where we went to outside services, which were a lot more expensive, and glad to see that, our city can help out. So,
Very good, thank you.
any other comments or questions?
Just a comment, wanted to
Yeah.
again highlight, so I'm putting it more as a question. You referred to the website subcommittee meeting last week and work has started. And I just wanted to highlight that that has already been pointed out in this budget. Money has been allocated for this. I say that because in the last, this is my 5th year, I guess, on this off and on this board. It has been very important for all the cities. For most of quite a few cities have pointed out we do not want the rates to change. And there was some concern expressed as we became a JPA. And it's really good to see we are trying to put everything together without increase in rate, which the president already pointed out and Shali mentioned. But it's also that while we are maintaining the rate, we are managing to get ourselves into a better position as a JPA. So
No, thank you for,
just wanted to point that out, and thank you for that.
thank you. Any other comments or questions? Any member of the public wishing to speak on the budget? Anyone remote?
No one remote.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Director Wally. Lahi and Walia.
Okay. Motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 Cities Association budget was made by Alahi, seconded by Walia. I'll take roll call vote. Montessorino,
Aye.
Gilroy,
Yep.
San Jose. Aye. Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Campbell,
Aye.
Sunnyvale,
Yes.
Mountain View,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
thank you. Cupertino,
Aye.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Yes.
Santa Clara.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure.
Next up, item 6, reports from regional appointed representatives. Mayor Turner, Director Turner.
Thank you. This has to do with LAFCO, and one of the LAFCO oversees special districts, and the big item that came before LAFCO gosh, I'm losing track of time. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, had to do with the South Santa Clara County Fire District. The South Santa Clara County Fire District, there's 3 cities in South County: Morgan Hill, San Martin, City, but then also Gilroy. So the South Santa Clara County Fire District really is responsible for the fire services in San Martin and the unincorporated areas in Gilroy and Morgan Hill. So the city of Morgan Hill contracts its fire services through CAL FIRE. When you talk about Morgan Hill Fire, that's CAL FIRE. Gilroy has their own fire service, that's Gilroy Fire. And the South Santa Clara County Fire District then contracted also with CAL FIRE. So CAL FIRE pretty much oversaw Morgan Hill's fire services, San Martin and the unincorporated areas of Gilroy and Morgan Hill, and Gilroy Fire oversees obviously their city. It's the special district. There's another special district, Los Altos Hills. It's Central Fire District, I believe.
Just the hill.
Just the hills. So Central Fire District manages their district up there, and they contract with Central Fire, often referred to as County Fire, but it's Central Fire. And so the Board of Supervisors, the way it's funded is through taxes. And in South County, those taxes are somewhat limited because of the Williamson Act, because of agricultural lands. So there's only so much revenue that we have coming in to fund the South Santa Clara County Fire District. And over the years, the cost with CAL FIRE has grown while the income has remained the same. And so it's been a little bit of a challenge as far as funding and the revenue side of that. So recently, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors decided to dissolve the South Santa Clara County Fire District. And as a result, they would then merge, if you will, Central Fire into the Central Fire District would then become South County's Fire District. And then they would, as a result, Central Fire or County Fire now becomes the fire service agency for San Martin and the unincorporated areas of Morgan Hill and Gilroy. If it's not confusing yet, give me a few more minutes.
Doing good.
Well, so now South County has 3 fire agencies: Gilroy Fire, Central Fire, and CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE again is contracted through Morgan Hill. That's our city's fire agency. And so the challenge that we have is that Central Fire comes in at a cost of a price tag of 2 to 2.5 times more expensive than CAL FIRE. So we fortunately get access to the Central Fire's funding. So Central Fire District will now fund and help fund South County's fire efforts with Central Fire. So, and there's millions of dollars.
Stop looking at me when you.
Yeah, so the Central Fire District's got millions of dollars. And that money will now be, according to the county supervisors, they're gonna now use that money to shift to help fund South Santa Clara County Fire's efforts. Not only that, they will now have to build new facilities or rent facilities or do things. So there's gonna be quite a price tag over the next several years to get established in South County. Plus, as I said, the price tag is 2 to 2.5 times more expensive. So that was the big deal. The Board of Supervisors voted to dissolve the district. It then came before LAFCO for discussion and a vote, and the vote was 6-1. I was the dissenting vote on that. So that's really what took place in with LAFCO. That was kind of our big deal. I do believe that there is going to be, I think there's going to be a protest, and that vote will take place, or the discussion, I think, on May 7th. Your LAFCO as well. So we'll go through that whole process. I don't think anything's going to change. Going to probably still be 6-1. And so that's LAFCO's big deal here that we've had over the last month or so. So just an update for you, and have answered any questions you
So
might have.
before we get to that,
Yeah.
before we get to questions on what you just said, can you pull up the
Sure.
website? Can you tell us a little bit more about LAFCO? Because I
Not
think
much.
they're,
I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
I think, and so I'm
Not a
having Charlie
comedy
pull
club?
up the LAFCO website and about page, which is right there. Okay. Second, or left.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
There you go. Okay. And what LAFCO ultimately is, and I think this is just one of these, it's been around since 63, and kind of as the county was changing, dealing with a lot of the kind of wider issues.
Yeah, and every county has a LAFCO. It's really formulated, I think, at the state level, assigned to every county in California. And you see right there, it's really designed to preserve agricultural lands, to really curb any sprawl. I think, speaking from South County's perspective, we're a bit frustrated. There's no sprawl occurring in South County. I think in the last 10 or 15 years, I think 10 acres have been annexed in South County. And so it's a bit frustrating, but it's what it's designed for. So, but that's when you think of LAFCO, that's usually what you think about, is that they're regulating sprawl, growth, that sort of a thing here. But LAFCO does also oversee some of these special districts, and they do report, and there's a number of things that they end up doing. I've been on it for now just over a year. It's still a learning process. There's a lot going on with LAFCO. So, yeah.
Questions for Director Turner?
Yeah.
Mock?
So there's a lot of money in the pot. So have you determined where the money is going to come from and where the money is going to go, the source and the destination of the money? How much of the funds are going to go? And did you have any idea what the size of the funds are?
I don't, and that's not really LAFCO's responsibility. That really is going to be the Board of Supervisors to sort of get that figured out. The special districts, ultimately, the Board of Supervisors really oversees that. Even if LAFCO would have voted 7-0 to oppose, the Board of Supervisors could have said, tough, we're going to do this anyway.
Do you remember what the vote was? I'm sorry. Do you remember what the vote was?
At the board level,
Yes.
it was unanimous.
Unanimous.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I believe that the money, the excess money is coming from this town.
That is correct. Yeah, you guys are, and I know you, like I said, you got a lot of money. That money will be, some of that money will be shifted toward the efforts in South County. I mean, millions of dollars.
So the question again was, and is, how much money is involved with this?
All of what you
Because-
got. No, I really don't, I really don't
So
know. I really don't
I
know.
have
That,
an
that
idea.
really will be a decision made by the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been complaints in our town and our area that we do not have adequate fire protection. And
Well, again, I think part of the frustration, I will just speak, and again, forgive me if I want to be as neutral about the conversation as possible, but at the same time, I do have some frustrations from South County perspective. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for collaboration with the county. We didn't get a lot of notice. And I don't believe in the ask that we made of James Williams, the CEO of the county, there was no outreach efforts to your city and those cities that were affected by this decision. So it was a bit unfortunate that there wasn't more input at that point, but it was a decision that they made to go forward with that.
about 4 years ago, they made the same approach to our city for the funds that we have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there was outreach, and there was a refusal by our city for these funds to be transferred elsewhere. So our city today is probably the third highest fire risk city in probably the state of California. And the other two were Orinda, Moraga, and here we are, Los Altos Hills. So the values of the properties there are extraordinary. And if there were fire dangers that were placed on us because of some unexpected reason, we may see something that is similar or has been similar to Malibu or Spruce Estates. Our insurances are being terminated at this point in time in terms of fire. So we cannot insure in some of our properties for the fire risk. And I thought that the contrary opinion would be that we would have a new fire station. We would build out what we need to have in our area so that we could be safer. We are not under the Williamson Act, so that all our property taxes increase dramatically if it's a new property. If it's an old property, it's under the old Proposition 13 rules. So we have an increasing tax base, and what the taxes that we pay is extraordinary at this point in time. So you're correct. We were not aware of this, and I don't know that I can do anything at this point, but I can take it to our city council, and I could have opinions that are wagered by them for this particular move.
Right, and I think again, with the protest vote and meeting occurring on May 7th, I think there's maybe still time if your council wanted to submit a letter, you could probably still do that for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know what we can do at this point. Again, I'll have to take it to our council, and we do have the city council meeting next week. So
Okay.
And
yeah,
talk to your supervisor.
Yeah.
Our city manager should have known about this as well, because there may have been some proactive things that we could have done to either restrict or not have this done at all. Because again, the farming community, although they have a large number of tracts of land under the Williamson Act, they're not quite as populated insofar as the infrastructure is there. I could take a look at one house, just one house, $100 million, one house. If it's not protected, then we as a town have failed in our responsibility.
Right.
Thank you. Director Hudis?
Thank you, Mayor Turner, for reporting. And I realize that LAFCO is not in the primary role on this, but I'm wondering if you came across any information or any information was shared at the Board of Supervisors about anticipated impacts on service levels or response times, or any representations that they wouldn't change for the existing cities or anything along those lines?
That's a good question. I don't know for sure. I think, again, CAL FIRE also got notified just hours before the agenda came out. So I think they did scramble. Morgan Hill also scrambled, put together a letter and submitted that to the Board of Supervisors. But the vote occurred anyway unanimously. So I do believe both CAL FIRE and the city of Morgan Hill, we provided a letter. CAL FIRE did the same.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Director Kamei?
Yeah, thank you. I also serve on LAFCO. The role of LAFCO is really not to discuss the financial picture. Although what Director Hudas said asked about in terms of level of service is critically important because that did come up, right? And the Board of Supervisors sits as the governing body of the South County Fire District and the Central. So the money in terms of it's two separate districts, two separate entities, and their effort to consolidate really is to try to provide better levels of service for an entire area that the Board of Supervisors is responsible for anyway. I think that, because of the fires down in LA, a lot of this is top of mind, in terms of people wanting to ensure that fire safety protections are really there. And I think that the South County area continues to be going into a bigger and bigger hole on the deficit side. And so in order for, as a county, serve an area, I don't think that they're particularly picking on Los Altos Hills to say, oh, we're going to take your money or we're going to take it over here, because my understanding in the presentation was that the levels of service would not drop, right? It is just to try to financially take care of that structural deficit, that they have a continuous structural problem and they're trying to find a way of addressing it. So I think that it's a little bit different. And, LAFCO's role was really to review this. One of the other roles that LAFCO has is to do service reviews of water and, fire and other services, other district services, sewer and all that kind of stuff. So that is our role, to do these occasional reviews. And this was just part of the process. Obviously there is a protest, but I think that if the cities are interested in, especially the cities that are on the foothills, are interested in the relationship between what happens with Central Fire or County Fire or CAL FIRE and their cities, it would be interesting to have a future discussion, because as we start thinking about especially the urban and rural interface, which is where a lot of the, I think, concerns are, because if something happens, even what happened in LA, it was actually not in the city limits, it was outside and it just jumped in by the winds, right? So I think that it would be interesting to see what is the level of service, what are some of the things that are being done, and the departments really talk to each other quite a bit, right? There is a disagreement with the CAL FIRE and County Fire on this issue, but I think that when it comes to actually serving the community, they put that aside and they come together, right? So I think that for future discussion, it might be interesting to if the cities want to have that discussion, have it there.
Thank you for that. Well, I have one question. So LAFCO in general, and one of our priorities this year is let's say disaster preparedness and all that. So this is actually a very good topic, but talking about LAFCO in general, one of the things you're looking at is trying to prevent sprawl and all that. How to the builder's remedies fit into all this from LAFCO, you know, because conceivably this is unincorporated land, you know, the county
Yeah,
took several years to get their housing element approved, and lots of cities have builder's remedies next to them.
right.
Is LAFCO reviewing those builder's remedies at all? You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's not even come up.
there's a generalized
state
sprawl
guy?
component of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah, we
wondering.
haven't even, yeah, it's a great question, and it does seem like that would be something that LAFCO should have conversations about, but we haven't, and I don't know that we will. But it is something that's, I mean, we're all dealing with this, and it is sort of that, you know, hey, so how does LAFCO feel about it if it's opposed to sprawl? Most of that, then, when we talk about that, is about, you know, not getting to annex land. They're really resisting annexing land into cities to create more housing opportunities.
Right.
And so, yeah, with the county, it's kind of an interesting conversation that needs to be
Because
had.
conceivably, this is almost annexed land at the end of the day.
Yeah,
That
right.
the builders and remedies have kind of caused cities to expand to some degree
Yeah,
to
exactly.
provide those services.
Yeah, good point.
And then lastly, you talked about the existing, so the county is currently going to figure out how to service this area. What existing facilities were already there, or from a fire department standpoint?
In
and all
South
that?
County?
In South County.
Yeah, it's mostly the CAL FIRE facilities. CAL FIRE said, we're not giving up our facilities to let.
That was my question.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that puts County Fire, again, Central Fire, in a position where they need to now either find places where they can rent and or begin to build. And so they're gonna have to find facilities that they can rent in the meantime before they start to build.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered how, if, you know, what that changeover was, because it's like, were there buildings that were part of CAL FIRE, it sounds like, and they
Right.
built them, they outfitted them, and
Yeah.
they don't want to give them up
Sort
or sell them.
Sort of, Gilroy owns one of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
We own the one, what we call Tree Haven, out on Hector Pass Highway. We own that.
Okay.
Which will be interesting part of the conversation coming up.
yeah, right.
thank you. Vice President William?
Thank you. And that's a great segue for me.
Okay.
So I'll ask 2 or 3 questions together in the interest of time. Saratoga, besides the city's Builders Remedy project, there is one Builders Remedy at the Mountain Winery site, which is in the county, not in the city. And so how would the concerned disaster preparedness from this body's concern at the county level for all of us, from my city's concern, I'll touch upon the wildland urban interface area, because that I believe I know is Santa Clara County, because they serve us. Of course, we have a Saratoga Fire District, which is not active contracting, so it gets even more complicated, but I'll keep that out. So the Mountain Winery Builders Remedy project in the county is served by CAL FIRE, ? And City of Saratoga, because their routes are through City of Saratoga. That's another whole bunch of Builders Remedy in there. We possibly could be not sufficient in safe evacuation currently, even without the Builders Remedy projects. I'm tying it all up. How would all of this feed into what you presented? And I'm tying it back to Councilmember Kamei's point that at the end of the day, Board of Supervisors is thinking of the whole county as such, not just the central district where South County, the money's part. I'm talking the whole thing, and specifically with Saratoga.
Yeah, again, I think from LAFCO's perspective, what we dealt with was South County and Central. Saratoga, none of that came up. It could come up at some other time, but it was not part of the discussion. And what the county would decide to do would be separate from LAFCO's conversation. It might eventually get to LAFCO, but County Board of Supervisors would have to do something about that. So again, whether it's builders remedy projects in anybody's city, LAFCO's not doing anything with that at this point.
But in the county land is LAFCO, because Mountain Winery is not in the city, it's county.
No, I understand. But again, I think we've not had those conversations at LAFCO with regards to builders remedy.
Yeah,
I don't think LAFCO has an ability to, sort of reach into those builders rent, because, you know, the legislation that created LAFCO was some time ago. And never in 100 years did we ever imagine, or when the legislation was created, that you would have such things as builders remedies, right? And we are in a county that is very unique because there's an agreement with the county that, and this was after a whole bunch of fighting back and forth and all kinds of litigation, that buildings happen in the city and not in the unincorporated areas, right? And so if you look at the way the land use designations and what can and cannot be done in the county areas are so different than in the city areas, right? So, you know, with the builder's remedy, that has actually opened up another can of worms that I don't even think the county knows what they're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So, because the thing is that if you put something in a place that has no infrastructure, it's gonna be, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be really tough. And we still have unincorporated areas within city limits, you know, that they still are not, like Burbank, a couple of other areas that are not in the city yet. And those would, if it were to get incorporated or want to be incorporated, it would go to LAFCO, right? Like, let's say this builder's remedy has no other choice but to hook up into the city sewer, you know, whatever city it may be, right? Then we would see an application of, oh, well, is this going to be incorporated into the city? That would be the only time. We haven't seen anything yet, but all of this is very new. So we shall see. I do know that there are some builders remedies that they're going off and they're, you know, kind of in an island and doing their own thing. And I thought, well, you know, that's good for you. You're going to have to do your own sewer system.
Yeah.
Right? Because it hasn't gone through LAFCO, right? And it hasn't gone through the cities themselves, right? It's not going through city planning, whether it's Saratoga or Morgan Hill or anybody else. It's not going through that process. It's going through the county building process, right? That's different because they have septic tanks, they have other things
And
that they.
those are some of the conversations that these builder remedy developers are having with cities. Will you let us tap into your water or your sewer? And that's where sometimes cities have the ability to say, sorry, that's not gonna happen. And so then it's a debate about, can they tap into another water source to come in and have that availability for water, sewer, and those sorts of things. So that's where these builders remedies within the county up against city boundaries are going to become very, very interesting.
But they could come to LAFCO
Only
for those services.
only if the city agrees and says, yes, you can tap into our water and sewer, then it goes to LAFCO for the conversation. And
because they're not, cities, I don't think, are gonna be interested in having these new developments tapping into the services without being incorporated. They want the revenue to come along with it.
Yeah, that's
where it gets to LAFCO.
Right.
Thank you.
But LAFCO can say no.
That's correct. Yeah.
Except there's new laws that say you can't say no. That's the big challenge, right? This is where we're at. This is what we're talking about today.
Yeah, but it's contradictory to our mission.
100% can talk, but where's this all gonna settle?
Yeah.
And public safety is the exception when builders remedy can, theoretically, that's.
Well, depending on who you ask, there's all kinds of exceptions, or there's no exceptions.
Yeah, right.
That's where we're at.
But definitely, if you could, as our rep.
Yeah.
Take the question of builders remedies to that organization, because I'd love to hear that, because I think not all of our cities are adjacent to, you know, we're all dealing, I think almost all dealing with builders remedies, but it's the unincorporated effects that I know that are affecting several of our cities in a very big way here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that becomes the question mark of how those services and preventing sprawl is the kind of the cornerstone of this organization when it was created. So
Yeah,
if you can do that.
I will. Yeah.
Director Hudis.
Thanks. I know we're still on committee reports here, and I think I was coming back to the fire safety issue with LAFCO and the idea about service levels. And I just wanted to volunteer. I understand that fire safety is one of our strategic priorities, so we'll probably do a session on that. And service levels, I think, should be part of that discussion, along with maybe 4 other items that we've been working on. And I would just volunteer to help organize the discussion on fire safety when that comes around.
Thank you. EP Wally, you want to talk a little bit about that? Just for a quick, very quick.
Okay.
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 But actually, it's
It's
since
more
it's not
drafted.
agendized. Since it's not agendized, we won't cover that. But thank you for that, Director Hudis. We will be having further discussions on emergency preparedness at future meetings.
I can mention that
Sure.
in the last, not right now.
Yeah.
Where the joys and challenges,
Okay.
I can wrap it up under that umbrella.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Yeah, just
Dr. Hines.
to play off of the points from Los Altos Hills as well we contract with County Fire. And what we're concerned about is being able to manage our service, the responses that we own our own fire stations. We have a contract. So that should be a fixed cost, but what we're greatly concerned about is just the service that might be impacted for that as resources get pulled down into the south.
Yeah.
So that's what Campbell would be most concerned about as a feedback.
You guys contract with.
We
Yeah.
we own two fire stations, and then we contract for the services with County Fire. So it's fixed, but as those issues get pulled further south, it's going to impact the service level that we might have in our area.
It's possible. And that was one of the conversations that we had was, how do we do this? Especially in South County with transitioning from CAL FIRE to Central Fire and not miss a beat.
Right.
At the same time and have it not affect other communities. So that is top of mind for them.
Thank you. Keep it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I'm just curious. So who funds LAFCO? Who funds it? Is it the county?
I'm assuming.
Question.
So do they supersede LAFCO or
I thought
LAFCO?
they build Milpitas for all this.
Sorry, what?
I thought they build Milpitas for all this.
Well, we have a house, we have an ordinance, a hillside ordinance
He's not
to
on the-
preserve
you could
open space. But lately, the county has been allowing
Local agencies.
housing.
Director or second vice president Fruin knows the answer to this.
So LAFCO is funded according to a rather specialized agreement amongst all of its member agencies. The member agencies consist of all the special districts, so things as simple and unusual as the Rancho Rinconada Recreation and Pool District that you've probably never heard of, to the Valley Water District, to all the cities, and then the county itself. And it's a very specific formula. A lot of it falls on San Jose. It just is for a giant piece of it by itself. So it's not necessarily as clear cut as just, here's an assessment district and everyone pays it. It's a big cost.
But it seems like the county supersedes LAFCO. I mean, seems like it, right?
Well, in this
They have the last-
particular case, yes, it is again, because Director Camille said that the LAFCO or county is the ultimate authority over those districts. And so in this particular case, that's true.
Yeah.
Director Mott?
What happens to the Los Altos Hills Fire District?
It remains in place. It's still, I think it's called Central. Is it called Central Fire District? No.
No, it is not. It is separate.
Oh, okay.
Charlie, I sent you a map of the
You're
fire
still
districts.
there.
If you want to
We're
provide.
still there.
Yeah.
So here's the deal.
Thank you.
And I've been watching this for a number of years.
Okay. We're getting
Um,
a little far afield from, so we
It's a
can,
financial deal, so I think that I need to bring it back to my city council and I need to ask the proper questions because as of this point, 10 minutes into this, I can't understand all the ramifications, but I will in time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's probably good to do some research and ask, even check in with the county and have conversations with them as well. Again, your supervisor would be good to talk with them.
any other questions? Go to the public. Any comments from the public, questions? Anyone remote?
No one remote?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for a robust discussion, and definitely, especially as we look, there's a lot of overlap on concerns of the city and
Yeah.
builders remedies and fire. So I appreciate you bringing this to us.
Absolutely. I'll check in on that.
Thank you. Our next item number 7, Legislative Action Committee update. Vice President.
Here, Chair of the LAC. The committee this evening received a presentation at their request from the Towns and Public Affairs on SB 457 by Senator Becker and AB 650 by Assemblymember Diane Pasta. Both have to do with the housing element approval process and the builder's remedy in particular. They are complementary bills. SB 457 would alter the housing element compliance process to cut off exposure, the builder's remedy penalty in 2 ways. First, by relating back to the date on which the housing element was in substantial compliance, the date that the city adopted the housing element. If HCD subsequently deems it compliant. Yes, they do. Second, by requiring that a development application brought under the builder's remedy to be complete by the time that a substantially compliant housing element is adopted. After a lot of discussion at the LAC, we did recommend that this body support SB 457 as it is currently written. AB 650 would make various additional changes to the housing element update process, specifically to require clearer timelines and processes from HCD. That bill we will be considering in greater detail at our May meeting, along with a number of other bills regarding disaster relief, AB 262, AB 846, SB 326, SB 252, AB 66, AB 300, AB 261, and then a bill on specifically authored by Senator Cortese on local authority over shopping cart retrieval and fines, which is SB 753. In addition, there were requests from committee members to consider SB 79, SB 677, SB 607, SB 346, AB 939, and AB 476. If you have bills that you would like us to consider, please send them to Shally. Get your staff to send them to Shally. That way we can get them analyzed in advance and we can have a good discussion with the LAC.
So the one bill that you wanted, did they take a position on?
So the LAC recommended that this body adopt a support position for SB 457.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Vice
Procedural.
President Wally.
Thank you. Yeah, can we even vote tonight because it's not agendized for vote tonight,
Is it agendized for action on?
not on the board.
Yeah, I looked back at the how we agendized this a year ago, and there's a parenthetical note for the update.
Okay.
It is not there for this one, so
Okay.
I wouldn't think that we could.
Okay. I was wondering, because yeah, I remember we pretty much recommendations made by
Yes.
LAC would then come here and we would have a second vote to say whether or not we wanted to move forward at that point. So,
All the prior noticing looked normal for that one line.
okay, we will fix that in next month. Okay, agendas. Okay,
Matthew is online.
Director Hudas.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize for not doing my homework. but I haven't read SB 457. But I wonder, will that only apply to the next housing cycle, or to places that haven't yet adopted, or how does it apply to builders remedy that are in process?
It is prospective in application. It could potentially apply to, say, a project that is sitting in limbo right now. If we're still sitting in limbo at the beginning of the coming year.
Okay, thank you.
At that point,
Did the LAC vote on that?
yes, we voted to support it.
Okay, thank you. And was that unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, comments? Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Anyone remote?
No one online.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Chris Bruin. Lance. Okay. Thank you. Next up. Back to my agenda. An update from Santa Clara County. Mr. Preminger, Director of the County Office of Strategic and Intergovernmental Affairs. And I won't read your bio, even though I did look it up this time. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying the title. That was my last title. I have a new title, but we'll save that for the next.
Okay. Okay. That's what you need to have the county website updated then. Apparently.
The discussion of LAPCO was interesting. If it would be helpful, if you'd like, the county can come and either answer questions or give a presentation. I say that with enthusiasm because it won't be from me. The quick report I'll make right now is that the Board of Supervisors meeting a few days ago, we took up the issue of Know Your Rights campaign for to have small businesses educate their workers in an 8-hour training session about the rights they have as workers based on state law and other law. It was somewhat controversial, and I think there was a misunderstanding about how it worked. It didn't mandate that businesses would have to do this. It would be a voluntary thing. If a company, Burger King or whatever, wanted to offer this kind of training, they would be able to. There were a lot of people there speaking in favor, and there were some small business owners that spoke against. It was all being done in preparation for a final discussion and vote late July or August of this year. So just wanted to bring that up, and I think I'll probably leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any question? 1 second. Any questions or comments?
Awesome.
Member of the public? One remote?
No one online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Preminger. Next up is Santa Clara County City Manager Association update. Mr. Kirby?
Yeah, thank you. We actually met yesterday, and I'll just go over a few of the things we discussed. We were visited by the Dr. Hom, who is the chair of the MPA program at San Jose State University, talking to us about potential internship opportunities in our agencies for public administration students. So that was good. We talked about the what I'll call the companion initiative that we're working on around good governance, which we're calling the Elected Official Symposium right now. That's our current name for it. But that'll be sort of a deeper dive into a lot of different topics around council, manager, and just governance. And we'll actually likely launch that next calendar year, and hoping to do it in partnership with the Cities Association. So more to come on that. And then we just got a briefing from the league, and just had a general discussion, the issue that Director Turner brought up with the change in county fire was raised, and we talked a little bit about that. And just a couple other smaller items. So other than that, nothing to report.
Any questions, comments? You know, the public? Remote?
No one online?
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to make one comment on the City Managers Association, and the training that goes on. That's part of what you're talking about, I assume, right? I took that training down in, just outside of Disneyland, Garden Grove. It was fantastic. So, I just want to continue to emphasize
I
that.
think that's a little different. That is another city managers association. This is our local one. So
Okay.
just the county of Santa Clara, but it's a similar type of
Yeah,
approach.
it's just, it was a great training event, so.
Thanks for sharing that. I think it is very good for us to all do that.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Next up is our executive director update. Shelley?
Thank you. There's a few things that I am working on. So I want to talk about the June event. President Klein told you that the date is June 12th. That's our normal meeting night. We will have about 3 hours, and we're still planning it, and we're also seeing how it can dovetail with what the city managers are doing. So I've been really enjoying liaising with that group. What I wanted to tell you that I will send out a save the date for June 12th to all council members. Block off that 3-hour window. Also, the other thing we're going to do is send out a short survey to all council members and city managers. I promise, very short survey, to understand what are some topics that are top of mind for your councils and for your cities, so that our presenter, Kevin Duggan, can really tailor it to what people are really interested in. So I think it'll be a really great event. The audit is still happening. It's been a little bit slow because of the tax season, but still working with our guy. The website, that's as President Klein said, our website subcommittee met last week, and now I'm setting up a meeting with them and a vendor who happens to be our planning collaborative consultant to see what they have to offer. And then it's a good segue to the planning collaborative. So I've been trying to get them on the agenda for the City Managers Association. So I think that'll happen in May. As you all may or may not know, the REAP funding is coming to an end December 2025. And to continue the planning collaborative work, all jurisdictions have to contribute money. And I think your city staff already knows this, and they've been working on this. But I wanted to bring it to our group so that all of you are aware of what's going on, since you have to approve the funding. Yeah, and the City Managers Association. So they'll probably come in May and just kind of talk a little bit about what that's going to look like, and then also give an update on what the planning collaborative has been doing for the past 6 months or so.
Questions for Shelley? The planning collaborative funding ends
December 2020.
Any other questions? Any members of the public have a comment, question? Anyone remote?
No one online.
Okay, thank you. And we will wrap up with joys and challenges. Anyone around the room? A joy or challenge? Vice President Walia?
With your permission, can I wrap up a couple of things that were asked? So under the umbrella of joys and challenges, I'll try to stay within.
Yes, please.
Not discussion. So I'll talk of the joy. I got my CERT certification a few weeks ago. And so this is in response to Mayor Budis's question earlier regarding the fire thing. So I'll just stick to the CERT. At the executive committee meeting, we talked about the disaster preparedness, how to go about it. Stop me if I'm right. One possible approach was to have a session talking about either CERT. Different cities in the county have different programs, but at the end of the day, in a disaster situation, all the cities come together. And the most important thing is the role of an elected official. On that front, call it a joy or a challenge. I attended the webinar by the city of San Jose last Thursday. It was half a day. on the role of elected officials in an emergency situation. And I found that very informative. And I attended the EOAC meeting, the county's emergency operating area council meeting, again, the wildfire and what an elected official can do in the prevention stage, during the emergency stage, or after the emergency. So I'll wrap it up there. Anybody who has thoughts, including Mayor Hudas, I'm happy to talk offline on that. Did I stay with it? You did? Okay, thanks.
Any other joys and challenges?
I have a
Director
really
Montana.
good one. So we got Rivian, a Rivian distribution center in our city.
Oh.
That'll be a lot of sales tax. So
Oh, good.
that was, I mean, it was very competitive. Other cities, you know, they were looking at other cities, but Milpitas, they chose Milpitas. So I'm really happy about that. That's the great one. The down one is we do have a structural deficit of 3.1 million. So we have to, you know, do some cutting. Be fiscally responsible. So anyway, but the good news is we did get Rivian. So I got to look at that part.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
Sure.
Director Bozeman?
Sorry. You guys may have heard of the Gary Garlic Festival.
Oh, yeah.
We've been working really hard on getting that back. We're coming back small. You know, we're only at 3,000 people a day. It's a far cry from where we were, but it's a start, you know. So what I'm telling people, this is not the new era. This is the beginning of a new era. So we'll get through this year and then we'll start to plan for the future. Pretty happy about that. Challenges, more fire district stuff. I mean, down where we live, between the two cities, I mean, we have a shared mutual aid agreements. I mean, we go all the way to almost San Luis Reservoir. So there's a lot of uncertainty. Like, look at the uncertainty here. Imagine with our fire guys and women, like there's a lot of uncertainty. And so we got to get over that.
Thank you, Director. Director Kamei? We'll get
Okay, so a joy is that after a year delay, we finally opened our City of Mountain View Aquatic Center. You may have heard that it's our all-electric pool. It's the only one, they said, west of the Mississippi. So lots of challenges to get it open, but it's fantastic. So can't wait for you all to come see it and hear all the buzz. I think the challenge is just continuing to meet our Vision Zero goals. So we had an incident, a pedestrian vehicle incident, and just trying to make sure that we continue to create the infrastructure necessary for bike ped safety.
Thank you. Dr. Long?
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks to Carmen for reminding me of one of the joys that we've had, speaking of Rivian, is I did the State of the City speech at Rivian headquarters this year. And I have to admit that even before I set that up, I didn't know this, but simultaneously, we took delivery of the first ever Rivian squad car that they've done.
Great.
And I didn't even know that was set up, which was parked proudly out front for all the people that came to do it. And it was sort of massively attended. And I credit the car, not the speaker. Actually, hundreds of people that came to it. So it was quite fun.
Yeah, I've been telling people, buy Rivians, not Teslas.
Anyone else?
Just a week from Saturday is the Campbell Downtown Campbell Business Association Bunnies and Bonnets Parade. And you might see a couple of us practicing our way as we go down. So it's a big celebration. So come on down to Campbell and enjoy that.
Absolutely. Very good. And from a Sunnyvale standpoint, last Monday, we had a new hotel open up. With, you know, the Treehouse Hotel, renovation of the old Sheraton at 237 in Matilda, but definitely a lot of positive feedback on having a new space open from a hotel standpoint. Business travel is starting to come back, and you know, but the big thing is a new restaurant, Valley Goat, and the Top Chef winner. I haven't eaten there yet, but I've heard from multiple people that very good food. So looking forward to having that food later this month. But yeah, it's good for, you know, anything new opening up in our cities is always a positive thing. So, yeah. Any other comments? Director Hudas?
Yeah, on the Joy side, we are opening a bicycle and pedestrian overcrossing over 17 that will greatly enhance safety. And having received state funding and VTA and measure funding, we have completed that project and it's about to open. On the challenges side, although this could turn into a joy, we don't know. But the town of Los Gatos sued two developers seeking declaratory relief on the issue about builder's remedy timing, where state law reads that there's a single 90-day period for which they have to finish their application after 180 days. But HCD has insisted that there are indefinite recurring 90-day periods. I don't even know what that means. And they threatened to refer to the Attorney General's office. So we sought declaratory relief and hope to get clarification on that. And while it sounds like, a simple issue over timeline, essentially what happens is by having unending periods, developers can come up short on their application forever and never actually build housing, in essentially blocking housing from being built. And so we hope we hope to know what's going on with that. And if anyone needs more information, please reach out to me.
Thank you. Any final comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:47 p.m.
Wow.
See everyone back on Thursday, May 8th. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good night, y'all.
Good night.
Nice to see you. Tonight, I would see.
Hey, thanks for making room for me. My flight was delayed. My flight was a little delayed, so I.
Where are you coming from?
San Diego. I went down for a meeting.